Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of problems on the 6A Maple TA homework. So this first one is number 1. And I want to go through and put the numbers in order from least to greatest, especially when we're asked to compute the mean. So the first one, you're going to do 0, then you can cross them out as you go, and then looks like we've got a 2 next. I might have to add some other numbers in here, and then a 3, a 4. Notice I'm just leaving spacing just in case I need to add some numbers. A 6, 11, 22. So cross out the 11 and the 22. Looks like we've got a 25, a 29, let's see, 34, 35. I'll put those closer together because there's not going to be a number in between. Let's see, 41, 46. Looks like there's a couple 46. So 41, 46, 46, cross those out. Looks like there's another 41. So I'll add that in there. And another 46. Then a 47. I don't have enough room, so I'm going to just go down. Still staying in order. 54. 54. And then 59. And 60. Okay, so it looks like I have all the numbers. Another thing you can do is you can add up all of these numbers and then add up all of the numbers you wrote down and see if you have the same amount. Okay, so I just noticed that I forgot a number, forgot 49. So I'll just add that in here. So in order to compute the mean is the average. So we add up all of the numbers and divide by how many there are. So if we add them all up, we get 714. And then we're going to divide that by 22 because there's 22 total numbers. And then we're going to end up with 32.45, which will round to 32.5. And then for median is going to be the middle number. So we got to figure out which number is in the middle. One way that I like to do this is to go through and start crossing them out. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to count 7 the other direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm still not to the middle. So I'm going to do 2 more on this side, 2 more on the other side, 1 more, 1 more, and I have 2 numbers. So the median, you can't say 35 and 41. The median can only be one number. So because of this, you're going to have to find the average of 35 and 41 to find the number that's in between that. So 35 plus 41 and divide that by 2, you'll end up with 38. And then for the mode, that's the number that occurs the most often. And on this one, it is possible to have more than one answer. And it's also possible to say that there's no mode. So if every single number only occurs one time, the answer would be none. On this one, 46 is the number that occurs the most. So the answer would be 46. Okay, so that's number one. Then number two, I'm just going to share my screen with you and show you my number two. So in this one, I want to know which one's an outlier. So an outlier is a number that is a lot bigger or a lot smaller than the rest of the numbers. So if we look at these numbers, we've got a number in the 400s, two numbers in the 200s, two numbers in the 100. So the outlier on this one would be that 404. So it would be Hampson because it's further than the rest of the numbers. Then the next question says, what is the mean number of rebounds, including the outlier? So that means we're going to include the 404. We're going to add up all 5 of these numbers, and then we're going to divide by 5 because there's 5 numbers. Then the next one says, what is the mean number of rebounds without the outlier? So we're not going to include the 404 now. So we're just going to add the 220, 211, 157, and then the 134, and then divide by 4. So be careful on that one. One of them you're dividing by 5, including the outlier. One you're just dividing by 4. So that is number 2 for you. Then the rest of the problems, I'm not going to go through. A couple have tutorials, and the other one, if I go through it, pretty much gives away the answer for you. So if you have questions on, let's see how many more there are. If you have questions on 3, 4, 5, or 6, let me know. But the next thing I want to talk about really quick is skewness. So I'm going to draw a few pictures here. And remember, I'm just doing it with the mouse. And so it's hard to make it perfect. So these are different bell-shaped curves. So this first one is symmetrical. And on symmetrical, right in the middle, we're going to have the mean is going to be equal to the median. And then this next one, it's very tempting to say that this middle one is right skewed because the bump is to the right, and the bottom one is left skewed because the bump is to the left, but it's actually the opposite of that. So this one is left skewed, the second one, and left skewed means that there are left outliers. So think of it that way. So there's a low outlier, and it could be more than one. It's most likely more than one. And then on the next one, it's going to be right skewed, and the outliers are going to be higher than the rest of the numbers. And then you'll need to know the difference between the mean and the median. So an example really quick, let's say I look at test scores. Let's say for this class, let's say I have a 0, somebody that didn't take the test, and then I have a 60, a 65, a 75, and an 80. So if I include the outlier on this one, if I go through and add up all the numbers, so I do 60 plus 65 plus 75 plus 80, and I'm going to be dividing that by 5. My answer for my mean is going to be 56. And then my median is going to be right here in the middle at 65. So because of that low outlier, it brought my mean down. So if I say the class average was 56, well, that's not really fair because this 0, the person that chose not to take the test, brought the whole average down. So a more accurate one in this case would be to say the median was 65, or to ignore the outlier and just look in between here at the rest of the numbers. So the outliers can really affect the mean versus the median. So if we look at the left skewed here, because this would be an example of left skewed because of that low outlier. So wherever the mean is going to be and the median, so let's say the median is right here. Let me write it out. I'm just going to put MED for median. The mean is going to be below that. I'm just going to do M for mean. So over here, so M is going to stand for mean. And then we're going to have MED stands for median. Because of that low outlier, it's going to bring the average down. And then for the right skewed, it's going to be the opposite of that. So if the mean, or the median, let's say is right here, then that means the mean is going to be higher. Because of the high outlier bringing up the average. So that's the difference between these three different graphs and looking at them left skewed versus right skewed. So remember, the left skewed means that there's going to be left outliers. The right skewed means that there's going to be right high outliers. So hopefully that helps you distinguish between the difference there. So if you have any more questions on 6A, please post them to the discussion board, not your group discussion board, but the main discussion board. Then that way I can answer them and then the whole class sees them.